For those of you who have never used WLED, it's a fantastic piece of open source software which can run on a variety of microprocessors like the ESP32s and display amazing effects on just about any type of adjustable LEDs. Our latest controllers come with WLED pre-installed and as configured as possible, ready for you to almost plug and play. But there are a few things you will inevitably need to configure in order to get set up and running. So let's go through them. When you receive one of our boards, as I've mentioned before, you will need to snap off the edges. And if you're using one of our new USB-A boards, coming soon, you will need to keep this little white piece, flip it over and glue it onto this white section here in order to make it thick enough to plug straight into a USB-A charger. And make sure not to cover up the microphone, as that's what this little corner cutout is for. Going back to our USB-C boards, once you have it powered up, this little LED should light up on and off to let you know it's working. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. For a while after powering it up, it will broadcast a Wi-Fi network named WLED AP. You will need to connect to it on your phone or laptop using the password WLED1234, all lowercase. And it should then automatically bring up a web page on which you can enter your Wi-Fi credentials and then be sure to hit save and exit at the top. Once the device has connected to your Wi-Fi, you can go ahead and install the WLED app from the device's app store or from the links on my website. And the controller should be discovered automatically. Alternatively, you can find the device's IP address manually in your router's DHCP settings and manually add it either to the app or use it from its web interface by entering its IP address into your browser. Once you've got your device in the app or your browser, you're going to want to head to the config section at the top and then into LED preferences. Then when you scroll down, you should see two LED outputs pre-configured. One is a basic 50 LED strip and the other may be there just to light up the LED that we previously mentioned that is on the board. If you don't want to add confusion to your setup, you can simply delete that single LED strip and the LED on the board will no longer light up. Whilst you're in LED preferences, you're going to want to make sure that you've got the correct LED strip type selected. So here at the top, you can select from a wide variety of addressable LEDs that WLED supports. And below, there's even some settings for selecting the power type that the addressable LED strips are using. So if you're using seed fairy pixels, it will use less current and therefore improve the power calculations that it does at the top here. You're also going to want to make sure you have the correct color order, otherwise you'll get inaccurate colors when you're selecting red, you may get green and so on. While you're in here, the next thing you're going to want to do is configure the total length of all of the LEDs in your current setup for this board. This is the total number of LEDs that you have in your setup regardless, not the number that you want to currently light up. That is configurable later in the segments. Once you've set the number of total LEDs, hit save at the top and then go back and into the user interface section. I personally like to set the server description at this point so that you can tell your different controllers apart in the list on the app. In here, there are a bunch of other settings that I personally like to set as well. You can enable a simplified UI. You can turn the color wheel on or off, RGB sliders if that's how you like to set things up. I quite like a hex color input. And I also personally like to set this setting down here. Set segment length instead of stop LED. I personally find it easier to set the length of LEDs that I want to configure in segments later on, rather than having to calculate what number LED you stop at. But that's just a personal preference. Now if we back out again and go down to user mods, all of our latest controllers include a microphone. So it's worth coming in here and just checking that the audio reactive settings have taken effect, that they are enabled, that the type is generic I2S, and that the pins SD, WS and SCK are set to 40, 41 and 42 for our USB-C boards, but these pins are always written on the back for your reference, in case you ever need to reflash WLED and set these things up again. I personally also like to set this squelch to 5, the gain to 60 and the automatic gain control to normal, as I found these settings to be very effective. With all that said and done, you can now navigate your new WLED controller and pick from all of the fantastic options for both effects and for color palettes. And once you've played around with some of these effects and colors and found a combination that you really like, you can then go to the presets tab and create a preset for quickly loading those presets, which include the segment lengths by default and includes the brightness by default, but you can toggle these things on and off. You can give it a name and a quick preset ID, and then you can quickly select this preset from the right hand side in your presets tab to quickly set the mood between one that you've previously configured and spent time getting just right and quickly switch to another one. And you can even do all of this within Home Assistant. So once you have your WLED controller loaded into your Home Assistant, which should be identified automatically just like it was in the app, you can quickly toggle these presets from there as well, and even within automations. As always, I hope you found this video useful and helpful in setting up your new WLED controller from Home is where the smart is. Once again, I urge you, if you have any means to do so, please consider supporting the channel using the links at the bottom of my website or by purchasing any of these products using the links in the product section. As always, remember, home is where the smart is.